Hello everyone. In this unit we are going to focus on disaster. Sadly, disasters are very common around the world and every year millions of children have to face these overwhelming calamities. In recent years there have been many important and devastating disasters around the world. Despite the fact that humans have made tremendous progress in various aspects in terms of technological growth, yet there is one area where they have not been able to surpass, and that is the supremacy of nature. Nature has always proved much more powerful than the human race, even though there have been a lot of technological and scientific advancements and achievement. In spite of development in weather forecast techniques, disasters at many times cannot be prevented. In today's age, the natural calamities in the form of floods, tsunamis, famines, cyclones, earthquakes are mainly due to global warming. Time and again, we have seen and read about many natural disasters occurring in the country and countryside, which have caused a great havoc in the society, killing thousands of people and destroying lives and properties. We bring in the some of the dangerous natural disaster occurring in the history of India over last few years and explaining the aftermath of romantic experience faced by people, especially children, exploring the concept of resilience, keeping this in mind. The Indian Ocean tsunami in 2004. Areas affected were parts of southern India and Andaman and Nicobar Island, Sri Lanka, Indonesia, etc. That toll was around 2 lakh. Following a major earthquake in 2004, there was a huge tsunami in Indian Ocean causing immense loss of life and property in India and the neighboring countries Sri Lanka and Indonesia. The earthquake had its epicenter in the ocean bed, which led to this destructive tsunami. The magnitude were measured between 9.1 and 9.3 and is lasted for almost 10 minutes. According to reports, it was the third largest earthquake in the world ever recorded. The impact was equivalent to the energy of 23,000 Hiroshima type atomic bombs. More than 2 lakh people were killed. Another major disaster was Gujarat earthquake in 2001. Affected areas were Bhuj, Ahmedabad, Gandhinagar, Kutch, Surat, Jamnagar, etc. That toll was around 20,000 plus reported. Gujarat was affected by a massive earthquake on the morning of 26 January 2001, the day on which India was celebrating its 51st Republic Day. The earthquake's intensity was in the range of 5.6 to 7.9 on the Richter scale and lasted for 2 minutes. The impact was so great that almost 20,000 people lost their lives. It is estimated around 1,67,000 were injured and nearly 4 lakh were left homeless in this natural disaster. Another disaster is still unfolding. Kashmir flood 2014. Areas affected were Srinagar, Bandipur, Rajouri, etc. Death toll 500 plus. Caused by continuous torrential rainfall, the Kashmir region in September 2014 suffered from massive floods leading to the death of around 500 people. Hundreds of people were trapped in their homes for days without food and water. According to report, around 2,600 villages were affected in Jammu and Kashmir. In Kashmir itself, 390 villages were completely submerged in water. Many parts of Srinagar were also submerged by the flood. Around 50 bridges were damaged across the state, and damage of property was estimated between rupees 5,000 crore and 6,000 crore. Uttarakhand flash flood 2013. I think everyone remembers that. The affected area were Govind Ghat, Kedar Dome, Rudraprayag, etc. Death toll were 5,000 plus, still counting. In the year 2013, Uttarakhand suffered from a major catastrophic natural disaster in the form of huge and deadly cloud burst, causing flash flood in River Ganga. Sudden heavy rain caused dangerous landslide in Uttarakhand, which killed thousands of people and thousands were reported missing. The death toll was estimated to be 5,700. The flash flood and landslide continued for 4 days from 14 to 17 June 2013. More than 1 lakh pilgrims were trapped in the valley that led to Kedarnath shrine. Today, Uttarakhand flash flood was considered the most disastrous flood in the history of India. All these disasters have in common is that they often are abrupt, they are sudden, they happen without warning, they surprise many people, and they are overwhelmingly devastating. They cause threats to life or loss of life to many people. Many systems are destroyed or damaged, systems of all level, government system, family system, school system, communication system, and so forth. Often the whole world tries to respond to help out with these massive disasters, and recover can take a very long time. We need research to understand disaster because that will help us to prepare better to put in place the kind of emergency service that we need to try to reduce the harm to the children and to societies. Also, try to facilitate recovery and promote resilience that we did all want to see in our children and societies and after these devastating experiences. However, it is very difficult to do research in this context of disasters for many years. We need research to understand disaster because that will help us to prepare better to put into place the kind of emergency services that have been need to try to reduce the harm to children and to the societies. Also, try to facilitate recovery and promote the resilience that we did all want to see in our children and society after these devastating experiences. From an initial focus on the invulnerable or invincible child, psychologists began to recognize that most of what seems to promote resilience originate outside of the individual. This led to a search for resilience factor at the individual, family, community, and most recently cultural levels. In addition to the effects that community and culture have on resilience in individual, there is a growing interest in resilience as a feature of entire community. And cultural groups. Contemporary researchers have found that resilience factor vary in different race contexts, and this has contributed to the notion that resilience is a process. In order to categorize the resilience process in particular context, it is necessary to identify and measure the risk involved, and in this regard, perceived discrimination and historical trauma are part of context in many communities. However, it's very difficult to do research in the context of disaster for many years. There are challenges while researching disaster-struck population, trust me. When a researcher tries to identify resilience factor in context of disaster, it is difficult to conduct research on the first place. In the middle of emergency or tragedy or trauma, we don't want to stress people that are already going through very difficult situation. Often disaster happens without warning, so we don't have the right research available. A lot of infrastructure is destroyed by this kind of disasters. We may not have the computers or communication system that we need to do research. We also not have measures appropriate for people who have been affected, and sometimes disaster happen in very remote areas where it's very difficult to go and to do any kind of research and try to understand and that what's helping the people in that situation. And often we don't know how children, for example, were doing before the disaster struck, and so we have to figure out the effects without knowing how the children were doing beforehand. In subsequent slide, we are going to learn about the researcher in this particular context. In context of sudden natural calamity which cost number of lives and impose life-threatening issues among masses. We did look at the developmental differences and short and long-term recovery pattern that we see after disaster, to understand the nitty-gritty of resilience and recovery. Also understanding what kind of research we should be prepared with for future disasters. Effects of disaster on children. In this slide, we are going to talk about some of the effect of disaster on children and their developmental issues due to disaster. Many studies has evidences portrayed that children who were severely exposed to disaster faced more symptoms and stronger reaction for subsequent trauma of any kind. They have emotional and physical proximity with that terrible experience of trauma. They might have caught up in more destruction, like if people they were more close to or who are responsible for their care were killed, they tend to have more psychological disturbances. Therefore, it also depends on magnitude of personal loss. So, if there is already a loss of limb in disaster and a child loses his parent or one of his caregiver, for example, one is more likely to show reactions, and the trauma piles up and creates more of everything disturbing in every aspect. People of all ages, including young and old, often have nightmares and upsetting memories in response to traumatic experiences. Flashbacks of sudden intense memory, having a feeling of re-experiencing the events. They can also have for reason related to that arousal, difficulty sleeping or concentrating in their life, and people also can show emotionally outbursts and of anger and stress. They can also have for reason related to the arousal, difficulty sleeping, etc. Resilience and recovery. We are going to talk about a report published by World Bank Organization developed in support of Global Facility for Disaster Reduction and Recovery, which helps high-risk, low-income developing countries better understanding and reduce their vulnerabilities to natural hazards and adapt to climate change. Working with over 400 national, community level and international partners, GFDRR provides grant financing, on-the-ground technical assistance, helping mainstream disaster mitigation policies into country level strategies, and thought leadership on disaster and climate resilience issues through a range of knowledge sharing activities. The finding and recommendation of these reports are based on quantitative and qualitative analysis of recovery experiences drawn from a multitude of resources. This report has part which has led to a number of examples of post-disaster countries that have attempted to integrate disaster risk reduction into the recovery process with varying levels of success. Examples are classified according to 4 levels of achievement. Basic level of achievement: integration of disaster risk reduction into recovery needs assessment. These principles included addressing disaster risk reduction consideration within government institutions and the built environment, improving emergency preparedness and management, and integrating risk management into all sectors and level of governance. Almost all recent post-disaster need assessment provided recommendation for the integration of disaster risk reduction activities into sector-specific recovery strategies. These recommendations included ensuring that damaged social and physical infrastructure, particularly school, health facilities, houses, and transportation networks, were rebuilt to improve and reinforce disaster resilience standards. Moderate risk of achievement: sustained commitment and continued focus on including disaster risk reduction measures in recovery planning. Anecdotal evidence from various countries suggests that recommendations made by post-disaster need assessment are usually implemented successfully only when supported by sustained and systematic recovery planning efforts or national recovery frameworks from specifically operationalize their disaster risk reduction related provision. Indonesia's experience following the 2010 earthquake and tsunami in Mentawai and the eruption of Mount Merapi provides a good example. Technical recommendations made during post-disaster assessment easily fall to the wayside when countries lack the technical capacity or expertise to follow their advice. The concept of building back better has become the most frequently invoked term when talking about resilient reconstruction. It is noted as an objective of many international, national, and subnational reconstruction plans and features prominently in policy discussion on recovery. However, the goal of building back better are often difficult to achieve, and the term is at risk of becoming an empty slogan for raising funds rather than leading to meaningful results related to disaster risk reduction. Substantial level of achievement: incorporation of disaster risk reduction measures in the design and implementation of recovery programs. Many historical and contemporary examples demonstrate how post-disaster countries variously incorporated building back better and disaster risk reduction consideration into design and implementation of recovery programs. This particular agenda received a boost in the aftermath of the 2004 Asian tsunami, which caused colossal damage and loss of human life. Most affected countries introduced a strong emphasis on disaster risk reduction in the design of their recovery intervention. By the time a devastating earthquake hit Pakistan in 2005, this increased focus on resilient recovery had gathered momentum, and both the people and the government of Pakistan, as well as the international community, were ready to take drastic actions and make significant investments by incorporating disaster risk reduction consideration in recovery process. Desirable level of achievement, translating a resilient recovery into gains for resilient development. The 2001 Gujarat Earthquake Recovery and Reconstruction Program is a good example of how to establish a virtuous cycle between the integration of disaster risk reduction measure and the strengthening of recovery system. With widespread damages affecting both public and private sector assets including home, irrigation infrastructure, school, health facilities and telecommunication and electricity infrastructure, the government and international donor decided to rebuild using improved multi-hazard resistant standards. With weeks of the post-disaster response, the Gujarat State Disaster Management Authority was established to provide institutional oversight and coordinate a large-scale and multifaceted recovery program. A primary function of the new authority was to ensure that recovery program included risk reduction component that strengthened long-term disaster preparedness. To do this, the authority spearheaded numerous disaster risk reduction initiatives that contributed to reforming policy and legal frameworks, modifying building codes and construction regulation, training engineers and masons on better building practices, and revising the syllabi of engineering colleges to include lessons on seismic proofing buildings and infrastructure. As a result of the authority's success, the Government of India advised all of its state government to establish similar organizational structure for disaster management. At the national level, the government established the National Disaster Management Authority, and successful initiative from Gujarat experience formed the foundation for several national policies. In particular, Gujarat's comprehensive legislation on disaster management led to the formation of similar legislation at the federal and state level.